theme that's come up recently, particularly as people get more fed up with the coronavirus lockdown, is some interesting questions about rights. What exactly do we mean when we talk about rights? That in some ways, it's some of the protests and concerns, from an outside perspective at least, look almost laughable. The demand to have the right to go anywhere, to do as we please, to have freedom, these are made almost laughable when we look at the virus. A virus doesn't care. It's going to kill you anyway, or kill someone, particularly when you may not have any symptoms, but you're busy affecting someone, literally infecting or killing someone else. These start to cause some very real questions. And the idea of rights as an absolute, as personal, start really getting in the way of human survival in this case. What does freedom actually mean in a pandemic? These are things that only make sense in a social context. They certainly don't make one in a health or medical context. These are much more complex issues than they're presented to be. In effect, the only thing we know is that survival depends on everyone's responsibility, not on arbitrary rights. So it's worthwhile to look again that the concept of rights has some really gaping flaws that are not helping in terms of literal human survival in this case. A right is really a declaration of a desired outcome without any indication of how the heck we're going to get to that outcome. It's often too absolute. Look at right of way, for example. When two people have the same right of way at the same moment, there's no solution other than might is right. It doesn't help. But too often we get the idea that I have rights, you have responsibilities. This becomes rather questionable, particularly when those kind of rights are embedded in a social structure where someone is arbitrarily given privilege, literally priority in the law, over someone else. In a hierarchy, in a business hierarchy, far too often, the superior has rights over the employees, the subsidiary people under that person's drive, as opposed to seeing it as a mutual set of interlocking responsibilities. The so-called manager is actually a support function, sideways on, not above. So we really do need to reframe the whole concept of rights in terms not of an arbitrary declaration of outcome, but how the heck we get there. And the way we get there is through mutual interlocking responsibilities. What are the responsibilities that make this possible? For example, in Finland, I gather there's a legal right to high-speed broadband. How's that going to happen? Well, the only way we can make sense of it is by looking at what are the responsibilities, who has those responsibilities, and what are the interlocks that make it fair within a functional society. So whenever we look at rights, we need to be looking at what are the responsibilities, what are the mutualities, what are the interlocks that make it work. So for enterprise architects, even within our own organisations, there are many rights-like situations going on. Rights of property, rights of possession, those kind of things, rights of control. All of those issues arise. We can start practicing on those issues now about shifting from a rights-based approach to a responsibilities-based approach. We can start looking at those now, because as we move forward from coronavirus, those issues are going to have to be reworked and rethought at a fully global scale. That's what it's going to require of us when we start looking at rights and responsibilities in order to move forward from where we have.